Endure and survive. The Last of Us Episode 5 is officially here, and my heart is broken. We continue with another masterpiece of television where I am blown away. Now, hi guys, my name is Zach. Thank you so much for clicking on this. I am a massive Last of Us fan. This is my favorite video game of all time, as well as my favorite story. Like one of my favorite stories ever told in any sort of medium. And I have been waiting for this episode with Sam and Henry to see how they were going to adapt it. And as a fan of the video games, I think they adapted it perfectly. Even better than what they could have done. It was jaw-dropping, it was emotional, and it was absolutely stellar. But, my God, let's talk about this episode. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you are new here, and also leave your thoughts down below. This episode did just premiere early on HBO Max because of the Super Bowl this Sunday, so the only time I'll be thankful for football is because of this. So, diving into this, the first about 20 minutes is really much about Sam and Henry and getting a lot more of that backstory to Kansas City itself. And we start to learn a lot through this. And that was one of the most interesting things last episode is when we get introduced to Melanie Lazinski's character, Kathleen, and what is pretty much going on there. And I like that they gave Kansas City and these Raiders a little bit more to do, as well as Sam and Henry. And while they're so persistent on hunting them down, in the game, there's no development to these Raiders or anything. It's just, they're Raiders. They want to kill anyone and scavenge off them. And that's something that I love that they really adapted here. And seeing Sam and Henry have to hide and sneak around and really much building up their relationship, and specifically the superhero aspect of Sam's character, was something that I really loved. One of the big changes, though, was that one, they made Sam younger, and two, they made Sam deaf in here, which added a whole aspect that I was not ready for. It brought more intensity to certain moments, as well as just the dynamic between Lamar Johnson, who plays Henry, and Kivion Woodard, who plays Sam. And instantly, you fall in love with these brothers. Instantly, you love and care for them, and you want them to get away. And one of the most important parts in here is, again, their development. What I've said from the start is that some people are like, well, why aren't we focusing on Joel and Ellie? Something to remember is that the supporting characters and the way that they come across and affect Joel and Ellie's lives will all matter in the grand spec of everything. Specifically in certain choices that you as viewers who have never played the game will see by the end, or at least that I assume we will see by the end. I assume, as close as they've stayed, that we are going to get the same ending from the game, and that ending is very important. So seeing their development, wonderful. Seeing a little bit more development of Kathleen and Perry and kind of that dynamic, and again, who Kathleen's brother actually was, very interesting. And then, of course, that first standoff between Henry, Joel, Ellie, and Sam was wonderful. And then them having that conversation. And I love instantly how Ellie is coming across with Sam and how their dynamics working. It really works wonders. And it's amazing to see nonetheless. So when they do end up coming up with that plan, when Henry and Joel are like, hey, so what's the plan? Why do you even need me? They talk about the tunnels. And this is where I was starting to be like, okay, I've heard that there's going to be a lot of clickers and a lot of, infected in this episode. So how's this going to work out? They're actually going into the tunnels because that's a major part. And there's a ton of infected in there in the games. But once we get down there, there's none. There's no infected. It really was cleared out for the most part. And at first I was like, okay, again, I understand that, it's padded out with gameplay, but I was expecting a little bit more thrilling stuff, but the conversational pieces that you get in there are literally so important for the story that I loved it more. Seeing Ellie and Sam interact, seeing the comic book, of course, and just in general, the way that they recreated that whole, area that people were staying in that obviously was, a daycare center for some sorts, that is straight from the game. Even to some of the stuff on the wall, the goal. That was incredible to see the production design in there, and I love that discussion between Joel and Henry, where Henry really says, I did lie to you. I did get someone killed. And he tells the story of how he got Kathleen's brother killed, but why he did it. And instantly he tells Joel, you look like someone who had someone in your life like them, like a daughter. You were a father to someone. And instantly, and again, it's really hard because I don't want to spoil the ending of The Last of Us for people who have never played the video game, because it is a very powerful ending. But that conversation is so important, and again will mean so much to Joel and Ellie's relationship going forward, And just that one thing of Henry talking to Sam or talking to Joel and saying he had leukemia. That broke me. My jaw hit the floor like, oh shit. And the way that kind of persisted and went through and kind of affected Joel, because at the same time he was like, all right, let's get up and leave. And they end up escaping to get to that little cul-de-sac, start getting sniped at. Joel's like, I'm gonna run around and take him out. Don't worry about me. I got you guys. Goes around. Old man, he's like, come on, just put the gun down. Doesn't do it. Joel kills him. And then, of course, Perry and Kathleen and everyone are on their tail. And those final 20 minutes was filled with such intensity. I was literally sweating in my hoodie. Seeing this all build up, seeing them plow through, seeing them push through, and how damn daring it was and thrilling. And seeing the cars flip, and then Joel getting that shot in and turning the car and hitting the building and it catching on fire. And then you have Joel, Ellie, and of course Sam, or Ellie, Henry, and Sam all sitting behind when Perry's aiming up the window. Joel can't do anything. It seems like that's about it. Henry and Kathleen are having this conversation. And what's more important is Kathleen and Perry having that conversation, which goes back that Kathleen is ruthless. She is fueled by revenge. Which, again, if you've played The Last of Us Part 2, there is a big mantra to that of revenge and the cycle of violence itself. And The Last of Us is very much turned to that. So I like that they're putting in a lot of these different aspects that, again, play towards the second part of The Last of Us, specifically that we know where it's going to get adapted eventually. So smart there to start introducing those things. But Henry's conversation, he stands up, he's about to sacrifice himself, and then the tie back to the last episode where we saw the ground kind of moving up. And I knew this was going to be the bloater. But it was more than just the bloater. It was like World War Z zombies everywhere. Coming out and just murdering and killing everyone. The way that they have the zombies like twist and turn is so goddamn disgusting, but it's awesome. Seeing Ellie and Joel trying to protect her by shooting up there was just giving me anxiety from the game when you're having to do that. And having it all take place at night was beautiful on a cinematography level. Like, there is no reason that we should not have seen what was going on in Game of Thrones. This shows you could show shit at night and have action-packed moments, because they really much were just using the fire for the lighting. And when Ellie gets into the vehicle and Joel's trying to protect her, and then the kid clicker gets in there and starts twisting and turning, Ellie gets out, goes and saves Sam and Henry, which right then and there I knew Sam got bit. But anyways, they kind of jump out. Kathleen's about to abrupt them. That little clicker kills them, and they just take off, and they're in a motel. Everything seems great. Joel and Henry are kind of bonding. They, hey, come with us to Wyoming. Joel's actually opening up, inviting them to come with them. And, Henry's like, you guys get some sleep. And then Ellie and Sam continue to have one of the best conversations and one of the best emotional points in the entire show. And a lot of praise needs to be given to Lamar Johnson and Kevin Woodard, who are absolutely phenomenal in this. And that's something to go as far as say is that every guest star in this show has been impeccable. And honestly, every performance deserves literally an award for it. And Sam and Ellie's final conversation, when they're talking about, the comics and stuff like that. And then he asks, are you ever afraid? And she kind of plays it off with a joke, but then she sees that he's being serious and she goes, of being alone, of ending up being alone. Which, again, is a big tie-in to The Last of Us Part 2. It's a big tie-in to the future. It's a big tie-in to her whole life. And I think next week we're going to see a very important conversation. If I'm timing everything right, next week is going to be a very important episode to really move this story forward. And I'm very excited to see what they do with the next episode, how they develop it, how they convert stuff. Because from everything I've heard, episode 7's phenomenal. And I don't want to get into that, but we'll talk about that soon. Again, it's very hard because I do know where certain things are, just because I have people who finished the entire season. But that conversation going back and forth, and when Sam mentions, do you think I'll still be myself if a monster becomes me? And then he shows the bite, which is different than the game. Because the game, it was a surprise when he had the bite, unless you've played the game, There's certain indications of that, but the fact that Ellie knew, and then Ellie shows him his bite, and then cuts her, and blood is medicine, thinking maybe that'll help it, but it didn't help. It shows how important Ellie is in this manner, because when they wake up, he's turned, He tries to kill her. Joel and Henry. Henry grabs a gun, points it at Joel, freaking out, kills Sam, kills his own brother. And it truly just fucking hits you. And Henry's going back and forth. What did I do? What did I do? Blows his brains out. Kills himself. Right in front of Ellie and Joel. Ellie and Joel bury them. And you can tell this very affected Ellie, and specifically the note she left, I'm sorry. And the thing that really gets me right there is because now Ellie feels like maybe it's a part of her fault too. That another person that came into her life died because of her. And she feels that in some way. She feels that regret. And I feel like the stakes of how important she is of being a possible vaccine add to everything. But Joel and Ellie's journey continues, and they bond a little bit more. And last thing to kind of just talk about, kind of going back to the infected, because I kind of skipped over that just to kind of get to that last 10 minutes with Henry and Sam. The bloater was absolutely incredible. The way it ripped Perry's head off was freaking brutal. I loved how they did that entire sequence of the infected. It's one of the best zombie sequences I think we've had in years. Maybe in the top 10 of all time. Maybe even top 5 if I'm really thinking about it. I love zombie stuff, but like that took the mantra, like the highest stakes that you possibly could. But I love this episode. This was a phenomenal episode. I absolutely love the show. It's a masterpiece so far for me. But what I'm most curious to hear your guys' thoughts. If you've never played the game, I would definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts down below, how you reacted to this episode. If you have played the games, please let me know what you guys thought about the differences, the changes, the Easter eggs all in there. But of course, guys, thank you so much again for watching this. And of course, until next week when we talk The Last of Us, stay classy.